Welcome back. This is part 2 of my Anna from Disney's Frozen drawing. I am Maisie from MaisieArt.com. I am a designer of digital stamps, and this is just a little video to showcase my drawing process. If you haven't seen it, part 1 goes through the sketch and inking portion as well as laying down the base colors. This part will go through the coloring up until it is a finished product. Right now you can see I'm doing what I call the soft coloring, where I'm just adding depth and dimension and some vibrancy by mixing and matching the colors and shading in a little bit with this. This isn't the final shading process, that comes a little later, but this is where I find the real life of the colors as I put them on the image itself. You'll notice as I go through that I leave the eyes for almost the very last. That's kind of one of my little idiosyncrasies. I feel like the eyes are kind of the soul of a picture, and so I like to save it for last. And then there's just this moment where all of a sudden it goes from being, a nice drawing to, oh my goodness, it's a character looking at me from a piece of paper or from my computer screen. So in the meantime, she'll look kind of creepy and dead. So finishing up the shading here, I like to use at least 3 or 4 different colors as I do my shading to give my materials and whatnot some depth and a little bit of dimension. As you can see with the cloak, it's very bright towards the light source, which I have illustrated for myself up in the upper left hand corner. I don't know if you can see the little sunshine I put up there. Sometimes I do that just so I can help remember. And here with the skirt, I do a couple of dark shades, and then I go in with a couple of lighter shades, and it just gives it a little bit more vibrancy. So now I am going into her outfit, and oh my goodness, I will tell you one thing. When Disney went from two-dimensional to three-dimensional, their outfits got a lot more detailed. They don't have to worry about redrawing it every single frame, so they can just design it, and the computer will do it correctly for the frames, and so it's a lot more in-depth and involved than, say, Sleeping Beauty's dress. But it's kind of fun once you get through with it. Moving on to her cloak, which again, very detailed. You'll see that when I wasn't recording, I pulled up a couple more reference pictures for her cloak and for her bodice and her skirt details. Like I said, I haven't drawn her before, so I was a little surprised by just how much little doodahs and nuances there were in her outfit. Not to mention puffballs. Puffballs were a new experience for me, but I think we got them okay. And there's the puffballs. Now, once I get down to the skirt here, you're going to see where digital painting is much more convenient than doing it by hand. First thing I did was give myself a little bit of a grid to work with so I knew where I was at on her skirt. Did that lower layer, colored it all in, and when I was done coloring it, I realized, oh, her doll dress on the upper reference picture is a little bit lighter and purplier than her dress in the actual movie, so I was able to darken it using the Paint Shop Psy program. And then you can see she's got that repeating theme of the flowers along the base of her skirt. I didn't feel like drawing that over and over and over again, so with Paint Shop Psy I can just copy it, move it to where I need it, squish it around, fit it in where it belongs, and it just makes life a heck of a lot easier. One thing to look out for when I do my tutorial in the future, I'll show you how to do that yourself if you decide to try out digital painting as well. So moving along, finishing up the smaller flower, and then doing the exact same thing with the bigger flower. That reference lines I put in really helped out because I could see exactly how tall it was supposed to be and where the middle line was. and it took me just a few minutes, whereas if I drew it all by hand, it probably would have taken me 3 times as long, if not more. So there we've got our skirt. It looks kind of strange because there's no shading on it, but once we do the secondary level of shading, that will go away. Decided to go in here and color in her lips. Anna has much more thin, pretty little pink lips than what I normally do on my digital stamps. I'm used to doing thicker lips that kind of can go with a lot of different appearances and races. Threw on her freckles there. And let's see, it looks like it's time for the shading. This is the second level of shading compared to the first level where we did it with just the darkening of the colors. For this one, what I do is I actually use all the same color for all of the shadows, which gives it a nice uniformity. It makes it look like it's the same light source and the same color level in the room. And what I do is I take a nice light, usually a light purple gray, and I do a layer that's called a multiply layer. I'll explain this more in the tutorial that I'm going to be making, but essentially what a multiply layer is it is layering on top of the colors underneath. So instead of just covering it up and having the solid color by itself, it basically mixes with whatever's underneath it. So I can use the same gray color on her skin and on her dress, and it's a different color, but it maintains that same sort of level of shadow. So I usually, with my secondary level, which I call my hard shading, not because it's difficult, but because the lines tend to be a lot harder than my soft shading, which I did earlier with the colors. Usually I do 2 levels of hard shading. I will do my first level, which is what I'm doing here, and then I will go back and do another multiply layer on top of that, same exact color, but now it's going to be adding the first hard shading layer to the color underneath it, so it comes out just a little bit darker, keeps that same lighting effect, and makes everything pop out just a little bit more, be a little bit more dimensional. So the secondary level doesn't usually take as long. Usually you get most of the shading in with the first level. So we're just going to finish that up. Using the shading is also how I get some nice texture to the hair, get those sort of lines in there that indicate different strands of hair. Now I'm doing my highlighting. I like this. What I'll do here is I'll use a pure white right on top of the entire drawing, just emphasize the points where the light is going to be hitting. And then once I've done this for all of the points of light on the picture, I'll lower the opacity so you'll be able to see through it a little bit. The colors will shine through a little more, and it really makes the colors jump a little more. It gives some roundness to the image. Remember to put her streak in there. The close-up of her face didn't have it, so I almost forgot. Here I am putting in some wisps of her hair. Generally speaking, people don't have perfect clumps of hair like you get in many line drawings and digital stamps, so I like to throw in some little wisps that are sticking out, make it a little more lifelike. And finally we come to her eyes. She has some very pretty sort of a pale teal colored eyes I found from my reference picture, which is something I haven't really done much of. Probably could have gone a little lighter, but I was happy with the final effect. I have a pretty set method of doing my eyes. Makes them pretty not lifelike, but gives them a lot of spark and character. I will probably be doing a tutorial on that just by itself later on. Here is where I thought I was done with the picture, but I remembered, whoops, I had one more thing to do. This is very important. I have to do my luminosity layer. Looks kind of weird, but this process, which again I'll explain in the tutorial, really adds some light and character. So as you can see, she's just a little more bright and happy, and now the picture is done. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.